the place we're from. If you look at Faroese music, Faroese art, folklore, everything has this very strong doomy undertone. So there's almost unlimited inspiration to go after, and we've then just continued to try to manifest that into our music, try to recreate that kind of atmosphere and that kind of feeling in the music.
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If the two of you would be so kind, would you mind introducing yourselves?
I'm Theodor Kapnas. I play guitars in Hamferð.
And I'm Esmar Joensen. I play keyboards.
And how do you describe the music of Hamferð?
I guess we have our own brand of doom metal. So it's pretty slow. It's pretty dark, like most doom metal out there, I'd say. But we're quite heavily influenced by the Faroe Islands, the country where we're from, the cultural heritage, if you may, and the nature around us, which I think makes the band sound a bit unique compared to many of the other doom bands out there. Yeah. We have influences from other Faroese music, and it has this general melancholic tone, which is to find in all doom metal, but also in pretty much all of Faroese music.
Yeah, we were really like a really isolated nation, and so I think that resonates in the music a lot.
So I'd like to talk about the Faroe Islands a little bit, just in case my listeners don't know much about where you're from. So, are the Faroe Islands considered part of Scandinavia?
It depends on if it's part of the Nordic countries, yes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's part of Scandinavia. I think Scandinavia is usually referred to as Denmark, Norway.
Okay.
The Faroe Islands, this is where it becomes complicated. We're our own nation with our own flag and our language, and we're pretty isolated in the middle of the North Atlantic. But the country belongs to the Kingdom of Denmark. So we're an autonomous region of the Kingdom of Denmark.
Yeah.
We very much consider ourselves an independent country and an independent nation. But formally, yeah.
And the language there, Faroese, is similar to Icelandic, right?
Yeah, it's like a distant cousin. I'd say some words are similar, but yeah.
I think I've heard a linguist explain it to that, all the Scandinavian languages come from the same origin, like from Old Norse. And since the Faroe Islands and Iceland are the most isolated and smallest Nordic countries, the languages have developed slower here than they have in other places and have less outside influence. So Faroese and Icelandic vocabulary is very similar. The spelling is similar. We have some similar letters, which only exist in the letter ed only exists in Faroese and Icelandic, but the pronunciation is quite different.
Yeah, quite.
Okay, interesting. And as far as the music scene in the Faroe Islands, it's interesting because just by coincidence, Metal Blade also sent me the Tyr album. Tyr are from the Faroe Islands as well, right?
Yeah. They're old friends of ours.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the music scene like there?
It's a very rich music scene. There's a very deep singing culture in the Faroe Islands. There are lots of choirs, and every party you go to, they're singing. So most Faroese people sing, and that also manifests itself into the music scene, that there's a lot of really talented artists, musicians, in all sorts of genres. I mean, one of the cool things about the music scene in the Faroes is that it's historically very non-commercial. Like in many bigger places, you have different scenes. In the Faroes, we don't really have scenes. Everybody does their own things. You have singer-songwriters, indie, rock, hip-hop, electronic, metal. But everybody kind of does their own thing, and people work together a lot. So it's a very rich and very diverse scene, I'd say. And what's in common, call like middle of the ocean tone. If it's pop music or singer-songwriter or doom metal, there's the same kind of vibe, the same tone, which is present in most of the music which is made here.
Okay. And I think you described that tone, that feeling as melancholic. Is that largely due to the weather, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it plays a big part of it, actually. Yeah, and because we're really isolated in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and the winds are really, really rough. And
I mean, it's a small country, which is built up of small societies. We only have just over 50,000 inhabitants. on 18 islands. I think 17 are inhabited.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we're very much a part of the Western world. There are daily flights. They're not that expensive. People travel a lot. But if you go back, not that many generations before modern technology, it's a pretty treacherous place with very closely knit small societies. So whenever something happens, like for example, the tragedy which our latest record is about, it affects the whole community, which means that people live very closely together. Anything which happens within the society affects everyone.
Yeah.
Which means that there's you grieve together and you celebrate together. But I think that's where the melancholy comes from. Much of the natural inspiration here is also, as Esmar says, it's pretty rough. It's rugged hills and mountains and rough seas.
Mm.
And I think we'll talk about this more when we speak about this latest album. But fishing and sea life are a big part of the Faroese culture, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, nothing much grows here. We have grass, but very little agriculture. So both historically and now, the country is very dependent on fish.
Yeah.
Used to be just to be able to feed yourself. Now, all of the export pretty much, and the economy is built up around fishing. So it can't really be the importance of the ocean and fishing can't be overestimated for a place like this. Obviously, in the middle of the ocean.
Out of curiosity, do you guys fish? Are you guys good at sailing?
Not me, no.
I really enjoy fishing. I don't have a boat, so it doesn't happen that many times per year. At some point in the future, I'm going to have a boat, but not at the moment. But recreational fishing, yeah, quite a lot of people enjoy that.
Yeah.
It's very ingrained in society.
Yeah. Yes. My father was a fisherman, and so I'm also I'm used to that life, anyways, as a kid, anyways.
Can you tell me a little bit about the band and what brought you guys together, and what your goals were when you started?
We started the band back in 2008. I think it started sort of by chance. John, our ex-guitarist who founded the band, he was a big fan of Doom, My Dying Bride and Catatonia, bands like that. And he thought it made sense to try to make a Doom band in Faroese. Like singing the Faroese language and about Faroese themes, because it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then they wrote one song for a band competition, and that went really well. And I think as soon as we started to work on the theme, we found out that there was a lot of inspiration to be had, and it was an obvious thing to do and to continue doing. So I guess we just started developing our sound and experimenting with doom metal. I mean, not all of us are that big doom fans per se. I mean, we like the genre obviously, but we haven't grown up listening to a million doom bands. Some of us have, some of us haven't. We have very different influences. But if again, the place we're from, if you look at Faroese music, Faroese art, folklore, everything has this very strong doomy undertone. So there's almost unlimited inspiration to go after, and we've then just continued to try to manifest that into our music, try to recreate that kind of atmosphere and that kind of feeling in the music.
And the name itself is a reference to Faroese folklore, right?
Yeah, it basically means like an apparition. It's like if you see this apparition of a ghost standing like in front of your bed at night, it might be someone you love who's already passed away, and his like ghost is a last goodbye from him. It's often said like back in the days when there were wives at home and the men were out fishing, then suddenly one of their husbands was like standing on the end of the bed, dripping wet, and then when they saw this, they knew that he had drowned. So it's like kind of a way, to tell your loved ones that you've passed away, in a way.
So can you tell me a little bit about your songwriting? How do your songs start, and who do they usually start with?
They usually start with guitar riffs. For this record, it's been me and Ayon, our other guitarist, who've started on the tracks. Typically, they'll start as basic guitar riffs, which get arranged into a pretty basic song structure. Then it goes to our drummer, Remi, who changes some of the rhythms and adds his drums. And then it goes to the rest of the musicians and the vocals. Usually we do the vocal melodies quite late in the process. And for the record before this one, our 2018 record, Thompson's Likam, it was a very studio-based songwriting. So it basically started with a guitar track and some drums, and then we just start recording one-on-one until the songs were finished. But for this last one, the new album, Men Guðs, sterk, we purposely didn't try to finish the songs before everybody was involved. So it's then at the drums, and then the six of us met up for rehearsal sessions and studio sessions where we played the songs together as a band. Hamferð is very much a live band. I think that's where a lot of the stuff which is good about the band happens when we play together. So it was a pretty cool process to take the maybe 80% finished tracks, play them together, then everybody suggests changes, maybe add a part here, take a part out there, vary this riff here, whatever, change them until when we play them, they felt like, okay, now it's a complete song. And then we record.
So as far as the Faroese elements that make their way into your music, is it a conscious attempt to bring these elements in, or is it quite natural for you to bring these kind of melodies and these kinds of tones into the slow epic doom metal that you guys play?
For me, it's completely natural. I think with the longer we've had the band going, the clearer our ideas of what it, or at least my ideas of what it should sound like and what it should feel like. And I'll just sit down and play guitar and try to create some melodies and harmonies and riffs, basically, which have the right feel to it, which feels like this could be a Hamferð song. It's pretty hard to put it into words, but you can usually feel instantly if it's right or if it's not right for the band. And then obviously, we're proud of our heritage, and especially when it comes to the lyrics, I think Joen puts a lot of effort into it being Faroese and into the language being good and it expressing, Faroese things.
So I want to go back to something that you mentioned. You said on the last album, you were in the studio with the completed music, and then everyone came in to contribute their parts. Does that mean that the rest of the members only heard the finished songs when it was time to record?
No, I think the rest of the members, we sent stuff back and forth from the very beginning. Like from the first riff ideas, if I come up with a riff idea, I'll always send it to the guys to see if that's like the first hurdle, to see if the rest of the guys like it or not. And it's, sometimes the band likes it, sometimes they don't. And then before we had the studio and started playing it together, we also had a few sessions with the six of us where we met up, listened through the songs, looked at the arrangements, just to try to enable as much input from the six of us as possible. Because from my experience, people think differently. The six of us think differently about music. We have, we notice different details. We have different we focus on different things when we write the music. So the more inputs we can get, and the more filtering we can get, the more complete the music ends up being, and it gains an extra dimension for every person involved in the process, in my opinion.
And as far as John's vocals and the lyrical themes, at what point in the songwriting process do those come in?
At the end point there, where when all the track has been put together, he's constantly working on ideas while the song has been written, and he's also sparring with us, about the lyrics and ideas.
The lyrics and ideas, I think those, like the rougher outlines of what the songs are about, that develops together with the music, and I think the music in a certain way develops together with his ideas.
Yeah.
That starts pretty early. And then typically his vocal melodies, sometimes they don't come in until the rest of the song is pretty much written. Sometimes he'll start making some basic melodies, which we then develop throughout the process. Sometimes we'll have 2 or 3 different vocal approaches for a song until we get one which we're happy with. It's a very fluid process. So it depends from track to track, basically.
Yeah.
time we're having this conversation, you'll be releasing a new album at the end of the week through Metal Blade Records. Would you be kind enough to say the title for me?
Men Guðs sterk.
Okay, so I'm going to give it a shot, all right? Men Guðs sterk. Is that close?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Really good.
Yeah.
Close enough?
Absolutely. Nailed it.
And would you mind translating that for me?
It means, but strong is the hand of God or of the Lord, I guess you could say. It was taken from an interview by a survivor, and he used that phrase, and we thought it was a really sort of poignant point he made, so we decided to use that title.
And you spoke a little bit about the concept behind the album. Can you tell me a little bit about what the album is about and the story that influenced this album?
Yeah, it's a story. It's about a tragedy that happened in my hometown in 1915, where 14 men drowned during a whale drive to sort of procure food for the village and the families. And yeah, it was a loss of 14 men was a huge sort of tragedy that just echoed through like my village and the neighbor village, where, you know, entire households and bloodlines were just cut off, basically. So in such a small community, it meant it was an extremely big deal. And to this day, you know, people are still kind of, you know, affected by it in some way. You know, it's a part of our history, and it's, yeah, because some people, you know, some of the children of the men who died are still alive, so, you know, it's historically fairly recent. And yeah, and just this tragedy was a huge deal, and all those themes fit really, really well into what Hamferð has always been about in a way. And we thought that it was really apt to try and adapt that sort of tragedy into a narrative concept of some sort.
When did you start working on the music for this album?
That's a really good question. I'd have to go and look through my files, but I guess it is maybe the first idea started 5-ish years ago, I'd guess. We released Thompson's Likam in 2018. So I guess we started working on ideas pretty soon after that. And I'm not sure when the first ideas which actually materialized into something when they were made. But it's been a pretty long, drawn-out process. One of the main reasons is that as I said earlier, we're very much a band which vibes on the energy of being together, the six of us. And in the middle of the songwriting process, there was the whole COVID situation. Our drummer, Remi, is a very big part of writing the songs and being able to rehearse and play them together, obviously. He lives in Denmark. So usually when we see each other, the six of us, is when we have shows or festivals, which even during an off year, it'll be a few times per year, and it gives this nice momentum to the whole process. But then suddenly there was COVID, where everything kind of stopped. And then once the world started opening up again, I think it's the same in the law. A certain amount of time which you allocate to a project or to a band, for example, and then nothing happens for a couple of years, then you need to find that time again. So maybe we were a little bit slow to get going once stuff started opening up again. Mm. But I think, it's been a long process. It's always a long process for us. But I think it's been a pretty good process, and we're very much alive and kicking now, more than 4 years, it's a good feeling. We're excited about the future.
Musically, did you go into this album wanting to do anything new or anything different from your previous albums?
Yes, very much so. I think that there are quite a few things on this album which are, the underlying aesthetic is still the same, because the underlying feeling and the underlying inspirations are still the same. But if you compare this new album with our last one, it's fundamentally different from 2018. is a concept album. We envisaged that as a one cohesive piece of music, almost like a symphony or an opera or whatever word you want to use, where the different tracks are like a part of a story, a part of one larger piece of music, like different movements more than individual songs. And we're proud of that record. We're happy we did it that way. Once we did that album, we felt like we wanted to make songs again. So this album is, I mean, the lyrical concept and the theme is the same for the record, but the songs are written to be different and strong individual songs, not so much as a one conceptual piece of music. Another main difference from our previous work and this one is that we recorded the album live, the six of us in the studio, without a click track. Basically because we wanted it to sound less like a studio project and more like a band record, where you can hear the six of us playing together, the way that grooves, kind of get a truer representation of what the band sounds like when we play together, like when we play live. That's also new for us, and I think that works really well. I'm really happy with that, how that turned out.
Now, Theodor, you yourself recorded and mixed this album. Can you tell me a little bit about the challenges behind having to record the band recording all together at the same time?
Yeah, for us, I don't think it was that much more challenging, to be perfectly honest. It's not the most complicated music in the world, and the guys in the band know how to play their instruments, thankfully. Otherwise it would have been tricky, because I don't think any band will be able to go into the studio and do it without rehearsing a lot. We've been playing shows together for 15 years. We have a particular way of playing together. Remy pulls in one way, the drummer, and maybe I'll pull in a slightly different way, but it all comes together because we're so used to playing together. So it was a very enjoyable process. And what happens when you record six guys at the same time is you're forced to look at the big picture all the time. I think a lot of music creation nowadays, both when you're creative and music production, a lot of people focus a lot on many of the smaller details, whereas zooming out and trying to evaluate the big picture all the time, it's pretty difficult. It's just the way the human mind works and the creative process works. So the fact that you have six guys who all the time are listening to this and have an opinion, which might be different opinions, and the fact that you, for the same reason, can't really go into as many small details to nitpick, it forces you to have a broader perspective in the creative process, which is, I think it's very happy for a creative process, because most people who listen to a record, you're honestly not going to notice many of the smaller details. Is it this chord or that chord or whatever? It's more about the big picture in the music.
Now, is there something sacrificed when you record a band together at the same time?
Of course, there's sacrifice. If you're going for like this hyper modern metal production where every single hit is perfectly on the grid and all the guitars are perfectly in line, then it's counterproductive to do everything live. Typically, if you make a record like that, you'll record the drums first and edit them to be perfect. Then you do the bass and edit it until it's good and so on. But what you get, the advantage, especially for slow or mid-tempo music like our music, the advantage you get is that the musicians can react to each other. If you got the drums locked down on the computer, then it's the bassist who is grooving to the drummer, and then the guitarist who is grooving to the bassist and the drummer. Whereas when you're recording it all at the same time, everybody's reacting to each other all the time, which it makes the whole thing more cohesive. Sacrificing. When you do it that way, if you want someone to remix or whatever, every song has six stems. There's a drums, bass, rhythm guitar, lead guitar, keyboards, vocals. That's it. So you get stuck in this box. You don't have as much of a blank palette of having 15 tracks of guitars and all this stuff. But we didn't want that for this record. I don't think it was necessary. So for our music, I really don't see that many disadvantages.
No.
But for some people, obviously, it wouldn't be doable.
It sounds like you're pretty happy with the result. Is this the way that you want to keep working moving forward?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
As of now, yes, we're very excited about it. We're very happy with it. It's something which I've been thinking about for quite a few years, because many of my favorite records are hyper-produced. If you listen to like an old Black Sabbath album or an AC/DC album or an Iron Maiden album or whatever, it's not perfect. It's some of it's quite sloppy, but it sounds awesome because the groove in the way which is iconic, like those bands. And if you put those through a modern production, maybe it wouldn't be as good. And there are so many examples of that, and it gives this intangible quality and energy to the music, which is really hard to get when you sanitize everything a little bit too much. And I mean, it's metal. It's not supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to have an edge to it and an energy to it. And I think if you get the band grooving together well, it has an energy which is impossible to recreate if you're not playing together. At least for us and for me. Maybe somebody knows how to do it, but I don't.
The studio that you recorded in, Studio Block, is this your studio, Theodor?
It's not my studio, but it's a studio which I've been part of building up, and where I've worked quite a bit for the last 13 years. I think it opened in 2011. But no, I don't own it.
Who handled the mastering of the album?
Tony Lindgren mastered it. He's a Swedish mastering engineer who works at Fascination Street Studios, which is pretty famous. Jens Bogren's studio. I've worked with Tony on and off throughout the years, and he does fantastic work. For this record, I tried 2 different mastering engineers, and Tony's master was just exactly what I was looking for. Just made everything sound better, basically, which it sound better, but still like the mixes. I think a lot of mastering, when you get it back, especially if the mastering engineer didn't like the mix, people can be a little bit too heavy-handed. Whereas what you get back from Tony is always, it sounds like the mix, only better. I think that's what this album needed, in my opinion. So we're very happy with that. He did a fantastic job.
So this is something that comes up on the podcast a lot. I don't have an audio engineering background, so you'll have to forgive my ignorance. But what is the mastering for?
Basically, what's the easiest way to explain it? If you could, people usually have an easier way to imagine something visual. So if you imagine that you're creating a photo or a poster or whatever, and you're sitting just working with it on a regular computer at home with a not so perfect screen, and you tweak and your screen might not be perfect, then you can make the whole photo look like it should, but it'll be a little bit too dark, and you get a fresh perspective on the mix. And usually the mastering engineer, he can do one is a technical process to make sure that all the levels are correct between songs for an album and that they all sound the same. And then there's a creative part where a good mastering engineer can listen to a mix, envisage what the mixer has tried to do and enhance that by a little bit. And we're not talking major, but a few percentages here or there, which can make a huge difference, at least to me.
Okay, great. I appreciate you breaking that down for me, because it's something that comes up on this podcast a lot, and even the musicians I speak to don't even really understand what the mastering is. So I think it's a little bit clearer now for everyone. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Esmar, can you tell me a little bit about the closing track of the album and the audio that people will hear when they listen to that track?
Sure. The audio that you hear is the voice of a survivor of the tragedy. He was 19 when it happened, and it's from a recording in the Faroese radio from 1958. And he simply explains all the details, more or less, on what all the tragedy entailed. And we've kind of just edited it to tell a cohesive sort of narrative. And his daughter is still alive. She is 93. So after we managed to get the recording from the radio, I went to her home and asked her if it was possible to maybe use her father's voice for the album. And she said that was no problem at all. She thought it was more respectable to kind of ask permission to get her blessing, so to speak. And it was very important for us to kind of get that recording on the album as kind of, from the survivor telling the story, to kind of tie it back to reality a little bit.
Conception puts the whole album, I think, into context in a way. What we've done for this record is, the lyrics are quite poetic and they're in Faroese. So for most people, obviously anyone who doesn't speak Faroese, and even people who don't speak poetic Faroese, they can be pretty hard to interpret. Yeah. So what we've done on this record is Jon has translated all the lyrics, which you can find both on our homepage and also in the album booklet. But then we put that track at the end of the record to give people some context of what the album is about.
Yeah.
To kind of frame everything, if you may.
Yeah, that's true. Well put.
So the event that you guys wrote about, that the album is about, that inspired the album, was a national tragedy in the Faroe Islands. I'm curious if you've gotten any kind of feedback or any response within your own country from this album, about this album.
I mean, well, the album hasn't been out yet. It's not out yet, but all the people who have heard about that, us like are writing about it, are really kind of positive about, and happy that the story has been told in a way. Yeah, I think we haven't gotten any negative feedback so far, anyways.
Esmar still lives in the village of Sandvik, so I guess you'll be the one who'll hear from your neighbors and the people there.
Yeah.
But so far, it's been overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
So I think you said that Hamferð is a live band, essentially. Will you guys get a chance to play any tours or any festivals over the summer after the album is released?
We have a few release shows coming up in the spring, playing in the Faroes and in Norway and Denmark as well, Oslo and in Copenhagen, where we're doing this quite special one-off release shows to celebrate the release of the record. And we're doing some single shows and some festivals in the summer, doing the G Festival in the Faroes, nothing abroad. And then in November, it was just announced we're going on tour with Solstafir and Oransi Pasusu for a couple of weeks, which we're very excited about. It's a really cool package. It's two really cool bands. So yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Absolutely.
So by the time people hear this episode, the album will be released. Can you guys say the title again for me?
Men Guðs hand sterk.
Okay, I'm going to give it a shot again. Men Guðs hand sterk will be released by Metal Blade Records. Theodor and Esmar, please tell everyone how they can order the album. What's the best way to get it?
The easiest way to get it is to order it directly from the label. It's metalblade.com/Hamferð, Hamferd, since the internet doesn't have the letter of Ed, which is the last letter of the band name. That's the easiest way to get it. You can get a bundle with a t-shirt as well if you want. And yeah. They ship to most places, I'd assume.
And the label is also putting out some variants for the vinyl. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, there are, I think, 3 limited editions and a black one.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit old school and boring. I prefer just a good old 180 gram black vinyl.
I mean, that's where the sound is best, right?
I guess, yeah. The sound is best now. I'm going to be really controversial, but I say the sound is best on the CD. I'm sure that's going to piss some people off, but that's just the way it is.
I mean, everybody's listening to music on their phone, and so the digital master will be the closest, the least loss of sound quality, right?
Yeah. What I will say is that the artwork, Nick Morte, artist based in Oslo, made the artwork for the record. We only received it here a few days ago, and the vinyl artwork is pretty stunning. We're extremely happy with it, and just the whole experience of opening the gatefold with the cover and the inner art as well. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
We're very happy with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. And if people want to follow Hamferð online and stay up to date with news about tours and things like that, what's the best way to do that?
We're most active on our Facebook and Instagram accounts, which is, I don't even remember the handles, but if you search for Hamferð, you'll find us. It's
it's Hamferð official on Instagram at least. Yeah.
We've also just last week launched the homepage www.hamferð.fo, which is like a summary with tour dates and some music. The lyrics are up there as well.
Yeah.
So if you want to dig a little bit deeper, that's a good place to go.
And as you mentioned on your homepage, you have the translations for all the songs, which are in Faroese.
On the latest record, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Is there anything else you guys want to say?
No, it's been nice. We can chat.
Yeah, it's been really cool chatting to you. We're pretty excited about releasing the record in a couple of days and see what the people everywhere think of it. I think Hamferð is always a pretty introspective band. We create music for ourselves, so you never really know how it translates to the outside world. But I think the responses we've got so far are really positive. So we're looking forward to having it out there and being able to play it to people going on tour again.
Yeah, finally.
The fun part of the process.
Yes.
Very cool. So I don't know any Faroese, but I do know some Swedish, and so hopefully this will translate. Tack så mycket. Does that mean the same thing in Faroese?
Almost. In Faroese, you'd probably say tusen tack.
Sorry, can you say that again?
Tusen tack.
Tusen tack.
Which means 1,000 thanks.
Yeah.
Nice.
Or just you can also say that in Swedish.
Actually.
Or in Norwegian, or in Danish, or it's all.
Yeah.
Tusen tack.
egna stund. Trunan der ligger fire føton. Tutt kongstømme kan frelsa meg fra munnen kar.